Welcome back to Detroit Next. Today, we are joined by Council President Mayoral candidate Mary Sheffield. Thank you for being with us again.
Glad to be back.
It's been a while since our last conversation. We're out of the primary now. We're in the final month of this election. It's the 9th of October when we're recording this now. How are you feeling? What's the vibe like out there?
Good vibes, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, momentum behind our movement to ensure that we have responsible, competent, and experienced leadership to move our city forward. So we are very proud of the race that we've run, the numerous residents that we've touched, and even now with it being October 9th, we actually have a town hall tonight in District 7 where we're continuing to go out and to listen and to touch and to engage and to elevate the issues that matter to Detroiters.
I've been to a couple of those town halls, not all of them, and it's been interesting to see how, you basically outline your policy agenda. You say, here's the stuff that I've done, here's the stuff that I want to do. What do you guys make of that? And it's a real kind of back and forth dialogue with residents. What's come out of that? Have there been any kind of significant changes or things that you've reconsidered or added to your platform that brought up by people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we always take into consideration comments and concerns that were raised during our forums to go back and add that into our policy. Some of our 100-day goals, whether it's in housing or education or public safety, the community knows best what is needed in their neighborhoods. And so, yes, we've made a lot of adjustments, and we're always reminded that there's so much work to do in Detroit. But I'm very encouraged to have partnerships and the collaboration that I believe is going to be needed to help ensure that we get those issues addressed.
Housing and neighborhoods are really big themes in this race. We have a rising homelessness problem in the city. Statistically, it's gotten worse since the pandemic, particularly for single women with children. That's the biggest percentage of people that are cost burdened as well as housing insecure. I know you want to create a task force and an office to address housing issues, but tell me more detail about what you want to do.
So not really a task force. So what we want to do is have a singular focus on the issue of homelessness and housing. Right now, all of our homeless work is partner with our Housing and Revitalization Department that also focuses on the development of housing. So we believe it's important to have a singular focus on homelessness and housing from a human services standpoint to provide the wraparound services that are needed to the families who are the most vulnerable in our city. I also believe that there should be more of an approach to prevention, ensuring that we're providing direct rental assistance, direct money towards eviction diversion efforts, and building more permanent supportive housing here in the city of Detroit. And so that would be my goal, is to ensure that families have the wraparound and social services safety net that they need, but also develop more permanent supportive housing.
I'm not sure people really understand what supportive housing is. We're not talking about shelters. We're talking about transitional.
This is housing where, we place someone who is homeless in housing, permanent housing, but we also provide the wraparound services that are needed. So whether it's education, mental health, drug addiction, they are housed first and then they get the treatment while they're there versus, you have to get clean first before you go into housing. We actually place you in the housing first and provide the wraparound care that is needed for you to be successful and to succeed.
That wraparound care is kind of like the foundation for solving other issues.
Exactly.
I was reading a city report that was sent to the U.S. Housing and Urban Development, at the federal government. And this is a long walk, so just bear with me for a second. But it said that most of Detroit's rental stock is it's available for under $1,000 per month. But a lot of them are in really rough shape, and a lot of them are just unsafe to live in. And in talking about this online, people have convinced me that there's actually a greater need for home repair than building new affordable housing. We have enough housing units to serve our population, but they're not decent. They're not safe. And, and some of them aren't affordable too. So it's kind of shifted my thinking around that. In terms of prioritization, do we think that building or rebuilding a lot of these derelict homes are more important than building new ones? A lot of what's being built isn't necessarily affordable for people in that lowest income situation.
I mean, I think a combination of both. I've been a huge advocate for home repair grants, and we've also have undertaken a massive preservation effort in Detroit, preserving thousands of affordable units in our city. And I think there should be an equal focus on both. I think if we preserve existing affordable units, that's great, but also developing more single-family homes that are for women with children, those who have larger families, could be a better approach as well. But I think with the need of housing that we have in Detroit, I think both options are what we should approach from a very aggressive standpoint.
There's the 0% home loan
Yep.
program for people to
Yep.
repair their houses. There also was the ARPA program that will be
Yep.
going away
Yep.
that provided home repairs for seniors, roof repairs, and window repairs.
Yeah, and so that program won't go away. Just the significant amount of funding that we got from ARPA, which was a $40 million allocation that allowed us to serve more residents, is what we are going to be losing. However, every year I've put money into that budget, and even this year I put $2.5 million. So it will continue, and we've already had some very productive conversations with the hospitals, foundations, and others who are willing to step up to ensure that we sustain the level of support that we've been giving residents to date.
That's interesting. I mean, there's been a lot of talk in this race about how philanthropies and corporations can step in and fill budget gaps. So you've gotten some commitments on that.
I've got a lot of our corporate partners, philanthropic partners, who are very eager to fill in as much as possible. They are waiting to know who the next mayor is and what their priorities are and how they can be helpful. And so everyone knows that home repair grants has always been a priority for me. Affordable housing as well too. Education is going to be a big one that I'll be championing as well as it relates to out of school time and after school programming. But yes, they are eager and ready to step in and to support. And then also, I don't want to make sure that it's not a gap in the budget, because we never used ARPA funding to fill any gaps, right? It was one-time funding that came to Detroit that we used to put into programs that we knew was going to be gone in 2026. So unlike other cities, we didn't use it to fill shortfalls or, to make up for any deficits. We used it for one-time funding for a lot of programs that have been very successful.
Yeah, that is a really important point. The reality situation, 38% of Detroit households are cost burdened, which means they're spending at least 30% of their income on housing. 1 in 5 spend about half of their income on housing. So it's just a really deep problem. We have some tools. We're putting more funding into these programs, but how long do you think it will really take to turn the corner on this?
On housing in general?
Yeah, and making it so that there's not such a significant portion of the population that's spending most of their paycheck on housing.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think, one, we have to focus on getting more livable wage, good quality jobs in Detroit. There was also a University of Michigan study that came out a few years during the revenue estimating conference that indicated, I think, roughly 50% of our residents who are working full-time are working below a living wage. And so I think it's the quality of the jobs, it's our ability to build our middle class and raise the incomes of Detroiters that I think is also important. But I think also the more that we can continue to reduce property taxes, cut red tape, and incentivize the develop of quality affordable housing, then we will make more progress in that area.
There's some big zoning changes up for consideration at the council. We'll probably, I assume you guys will probably vote on it maybe before you wrap up business at the end of November. Basically, they would help expand residential zoning districts so that more multi-unit buildings, infill housing on vacant lots. And then there's a really interesting one that came across this week about saving old schools and libraries and other public institutions that are vacant through adaptive reuse strategies. So zoning, not the most interesting topic, but has a lot of impact on the city. How can we maybe further change zoning codes to make some of this easier?
Yeah, and I think just for, average people who are just watching, at the end of the day, we're trying to make it easier for developers to come fast track the development of housing. As you already indicated, it is a huge burden. It's a huge need. We need, I think, roughly 40,000 units of affordable housing. So we got to get it up. We got to get it developed, shovels in the ground, and families into housing units. And one way we do that is if we reduce regulation. Zoning in itself can take a year, 6 months, 2 years, depending on the zoning changes that are required. So if we eliminate that step, we're expediting the development of affordable housing. So it's something I'm interested in looking into. Other cities have done it as well. And as much as we can fast track, like we use a pilot ordinance as example to fast track the development of affordable housing and incentivize it, I think the greater shape we're in to ensure that we're actually meeting the goals and the needs that we have in Detroit.
Have you had much of a chance to look into those 2 zoning proposals that I mentioned? What do you think about those?
I have a somewhat of an understanding of it in a larger scheme of things, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into it. But overall, I do support, if we can, expedite and make it more of a by right for some of these housing uses in our neighborhoods, that it is usually a win for our communities. Now, I do understand that every neighborhood is different, and some neighborhoods may not want density. They may only want single family. And so I think those are the type of conversations that we do have to continue to have with our communities to ensure that we're respecting the integrity and the wishes of community as well.
When I talk to folks like on their porches or out in their neighborhoods, they often kind of look around the block and they can point out things like, oh, that used to be a grocery store, that used to be,
Yeah.
an amenity, that used to be another business that they feel the loss of, like those pockets are there and there's communities. How do we bring some of that back? I know you have a lot of proposals around small business development and
Yeah.
building up commercial corridors. It's a big part of like neighborhood vitality. So what are we doing there?
Yeah, so one, we're going to continue to focus on stabilizing our neighborhoods. That is focusing in on blight elimination efforts, sidewalk repair, alley cleaning, just basic quality of life issues, taking vacant land, turning it into housing, and increasing access to home repair grants. Secondly, you did mention our commercial corridor plan. We are going to activate a commercial corridor in every district using tools that are underutilized right now, like the Business Improvement Zone, the Commercial Corridor Improvement Authority, and allowing small businesses, Detroit-based businesses, to have access to develop those particular uses within our communities. And then thirdly, we are going to focus on bringing more wraparound resources and services and access to city government back into our neighborhoods, partnering with our faith-based institutions and also our legacy nonprofits as well. And so I think it's a combination of efforts, but we believe what is most important is if we start with our commercial corridors, which we can reactivate, turning into retail and coffee shops, grocery stores, and heavily incentivize and market those areas. Starting there will spur economic opportunities around and into our neighborhoods as well.
And is that connected much? I mean, you want to put like neighborhood resource hubs.
Yep, opportunity hubs.
Yeah, opportunity hubs. Let's
Yep.
remember the terminology.
Yep.
That basically, so instead of somebody having to come downtown to KMAC,
Yep.
they can go down the street and
Yep.
get some of the same.
Yep. And we will model it based on the needs, thorough research, an assessment study on that district. What are the greatest needs? The income levels. What are the major departments that are being called more frequently in that area? And we will really create a opportunity hub for the need of that community. I've seen two of them right now in Detroit. One is in my district, the Durfee Innovation Center. It is a huge opportunity hub where you can walk in and get information and access to a plethora of services. It has been very successful on that side of my district. And so moving more resources back into the community, I think is very, very important.
So let's assume you win for a second, not playing favorites, obviously.
No.
But
I understand.
when Duggan was elected, his transition team had a little over $250,000 in city funding to kind of get that started. It's a different time, too, because I think there was some restructuring going on with the bankruptcy. And there was a whole team that he brought in to help with the transition. I want to know, what is your plan looking like for your transition? I don't know if you're that far ahead yet, but...
Yeah, I will say, I'm definitely thinking about it. And I think if I was not thinking about it, I would not be responsible because you have a very short time from November 4th to the end of the year to get yourself ready. And so I definitely have been looking at national consultants that can come in and assist, who've done transitions around the country. We definitely want the best and the brightest here around me and our team. And we're going to utilize whatever is in the existing budget that may be set aside for a transition to ensure that we are hiring the appropriate people to ensure that this next administration is successful. So we're definitely looking at best practices and other models. What we've learned so far is that typically what happens is you have your transition team, you have certain areas of topics of concerns, whether it's housing, public safety, economic development, infrastructure. And within the next 30 days, these leading experts will create a 100-day plan, 1-year plan, and a 4-year plan and priorities for the next administration to focus on. And that is kind of a guidebook for the next mayor coming in. So very excited if it is the will of Detroiters for me to move into that phase, but I definitely have given it a lot of thought and eager to move into what a transition would look like.
Do you have a sense of like how much funding that would take? I think there was some philanthropic money that went into that as well to kind of boost what the city can put aside in its budget.
Right.
So what might that cost, you know?
I'm not sure. I know that it will cost, and we've had some conversations, just initial conversations around how much contractors will cost, and I'm pretty confident that we will be able to acquire what's needed.
Can you say anything about who might be on your transition team?
No, I think that's premature.
Okay.
Yeah.
I talked to the former budget director.
Okay.
Shout out to Steve Watson
Yeah,
here.
he's great.
We talked about how worried should people really be about like the
Yeah,
city's finances. And basically, he told me that we're in pretty good shape.
I think so too.
We've got we're making our pension payments. We've put aside a pretty good rainy day fund for
Yeah.
emergencies. Revenues are up. Our credit ratings improving, so
Mhm.
on. We're also expecting some cuts in federal funding.
Mhm.
The nonprofit world is also a little concerned about the money that they're bringing in, their
Yeah,
ability to fund things. So
exactly.
when it's your time to create the budget, what's your approach to that? What are your priorities?
Yeah, I mean, we want to, of course, make sure we don't spend more than we have. I have led with fiscal discipline for the last 12 years. I understand how important it is to ensure that we remain in a good financial state. And so we are already aggressively looking at ways that we can diversify our revenues, ways that we can be innovative in how we bring new revenue streams into the city of Detroit. I know that the entertainment tax and sales tax has been floating around, but there's also other areas that maybe not, may not necessarily be taxes, but just money that is being missed, opportunities that the city could bring in to generate revenue. So that is important to us. We will also ensure that we have a chief growth officer that will help diversify and grow our population. But ultimately, the more that we build our middle class, the more that we attract residents here and retain residents and get people in good livable wage jobs, that also grows our population, grows our revenue in the long term as well.
Brought up the entertainment taxes. A lot of folks have been asking me about like what is Detroit's relationship to Lansing? How could
Mm-hmm.
it change with the next mayor? We'll have a new governor, in a year as well. So a lot of that seems like it's kind of up in the air. Um, who are you plugged in with in Lansing? Are there lawmakers that you communicate with regularly that kind of keep you up on what's going on in the legislature? Like, what are your kind of connections there?
Yeah, so I mean, 12 years now, I've had the ability to make a lot of connections with the Detroit delegation and even across the aisle. It is my intent to ensure that I continue to build on those relationships through our lobbyists and ensuring that we also have an additional liaison that's working in the state. Definitely the Speaker of the House is someone I'm trying to get on his good side. Not saying I'm on his bad side, but I know he is someone who I definitely want to work with to get things passed in Lansing. And so I am prepared and ready to find common ground with whomever is in office, whether you're on the left or on the right. I know that there are some common things that we can all agree on to be able to move the city forward. I was proud to see the Public Safety Fund money for CVI was approved to come
Yeah,
back to Detroit.
that's a
That was
big deal.
huge. That was a big deal. That allows us to continue with our CVI work and possibly start our Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And so there are some ways that we can find common ground in relationships that I don't have. I'll be aggressively pursuing them to build. So I'm excited.
Have you met Matt Hall? Have you
Yes,
had a
yep.
chance to talk with him?
I've talked to his team. We've been in contact.
And what's your I don't know, what's that relationship like right now? How are you guys?
I mean, we know each other, right? We know who each other is, and we both are going to have to work with each other to get things done for Detroit, and that's what I'm excited about.
I asked because we were we were coming out of a pretty contentious situation in Lansing where we narrowly avoided a government shutdown. And as part of that, Governor Whitmer signed into a law a 24% tax on marijuana to create money to fix the damn roads, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sparked some concerns about how that increase in prices will be passed down to consumers and hurt the legal market. Heard a lot of concerns about that, actually, that it's going to maybe, incentivize people to go back to their dealers instead of going to their dispensary. Do you have any thoughts on the marijuana tax and how it would affect the industry here in Detroit? It's a new growing industry, but
Yeah, I mean, I think we would have to wait and see. I also read the studies and some of the reports about the impacts that it can have. I do know that the marijuana industry in Detroit feels as if they already have taken a hit because Detroit took so long to get our ordinance approved. And so there have been some challenges. And so it's something that we'll have to continue to study and monitor and see if there's anything that Detroit can do from a policy standpoint to support.
I think a lot of folks expect Trump to be outwardly hostile toward
Yeah.
Detroit. You've talked before about not wanting the National Guard to come in here. It didn't work out so well the last time in the '60s. But still, I mean, I think a lot of folks just feel like it's something that's kind of inevitable.
Mm,
Maybe we're not on the top 5 cities that troops are going to, but maybe we're on the top 10 or the top 20.
yeah.
So how are you preparing for that potential?
Well, as mayor, my job is to ensure that that doesn't happen. And I am going to remain focused on doing whatever I can to prevent the national troops from coming. And that to me is going to be having a comprehensive and coordinated approach to how we address public safety, one that is rooted in strong partnerships with law enforcement and community. And what we are doing is working. Now, we know Detroit is still far too unsafe.
Mhm.
One life lost is still far too many, but every year I've been on council, violent crime has gone down in every category of violent crime. Just this past week, we stood with the mayor and law enforcement agencies to announce that yet again, this third quarter of this year, we saw a significant drop in crime in Detroit. And so our approach is working. And I think it's about how we build on those partnerships with law enforcement and community to continue to drive crime down even more. So I think it's unwarranted, as our governor stated. I don't think that it will solve any issues. And so how I'm preparing is continuing to drive the work that we're doing and trying to get crime down even more to show that our approach with partnerships in community and law enforcement is working.
Mhm.
And the federal troops, or National Guards, I should say, would not help anything. If
Mhm.
anything, I think it would make it worse, to be quite honest with you. So my goal is to continue to build those partnerships and to avoid that situation from happening.
The mayor, Duggan, has said that a good version of a relationship is kind of what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
They give resources through
Yeah.
federal prosecutors,
Yeah.
DA, ATF coming down here and working on cases in that way instead
Yeah.
of this show of force on
Yep.
the streets.
Exactly.
That must, I don't know, that must be a difficult position for you to be in, though, that like Detroit becomes a national spotlight and now you are having to contend with a federal administration that, tends to be pretty aggressive.
Hmm.
Just on like a human level, like that would give me anxiety. Like, how are you feeling about
Yeah,
all that?
a lot of people say it's inevitable. I try to think more optimistically. I know that Detroit is a target. I know that urban leadership and those who are leading who are African Americans are a target of Donald Trump. But ultimately, I am just trying to be more optimistic in my belief that if we continue the route that we're going, highlighting our partnerships with law enforcement and community and driving crime down, we won't have to worry about it. And if we do, I will be prepared and I will be able to address and handle the situation. So no anxiety. This is the times that we're living in, unfortunately, and we will be prepared if, in fact, that does happen.
Just kind of on this theme of government power. I saw some concerns when Mayor Duggan endorsed you that, well, it basically fuels concerns from people that were kind of already skeptical of Duggan that
Hmm.
that he would have a continued influence over your administration, especially if he became governor.
Hmm.
Um, what do you make of that?
I think it's far from the truth. Everyone who has had the opportunity to watch me my last 12 years on the city council knows that I am the most independent voice that you could find. I have challenged the mayor. I have stood by myself. I have pushed the status quo, and we have not always agreed on everything. And even with Mayor Duggan endorsing me, he indicated that, listen, I'm not supporting her because she's going to continue my policies, because she's her own person, but I am supporting her because I do believe she's the most qualified and capable leader in this race to move our city forward in a positive direction. And I just think that that is so important for people to understand. I do think Mayor Duggan has done a great job. We have not always agreed, and I will always do what I believe is best. We have different philosophies, different priorities, and I'm going to lead in a different way, but I've learned a lot from him. And I'm excited to move forward in my own way to address the issues that Detroiters have.
Do you anticipate endorsing him for governor?
I have not even gotten to the governor's race at all. I am laser focused on ensuring that Detroit is in good hands. And I will say he hasn't asked me either.
Hmm.
But I do believe that that race will be very important to the future of Detroit and ensuring that we have a good governor there to support the work of Detroit. But have not entertained any discussions around the governor's race.
When it comes to city council, there's a couple
Yeah.
of seats that are not up for grabs, and then a few that are contended.
Yeah.
Especially your district in D5. You haven't really weighed in on that race at all. Do you have any thoughts on who maybe should succeed you in your council seat?
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately the residents are going to decide in that particular seat. I have had some favorable conversations with Renetta Miller, and ultimately I am going to ensure that whoever is in that seat, we have a good working relationship. And that's important to me. Coming from council, the mayor cannot do anything without a strong city council partnership. So I want to be respectful to the process, but also ensure that I do build relationships with whomever wins.
Should I make anything of the fact that you didn't mention Willie Burton there, or what does that mean?
No, I know I've worked with her. I've had some good, favorable conversations. I've also known Willie. I haven't had a chance to talk to him in this particular regard, in regards to this race. And so, again, I've heard, more favorable things from my District 5 residents wanting maybe Renetta Miller. But again, I have not had the opportunity to get intimately involved in the race. And I'm going to work with whoever is elected in that seat.
When I've been talking to council members about, the next term ahead, a lot of them will bring up the concept of co-governance, which is something I know you've been passionate about as well. So how does co-governance, what does that look like in a Sheffield administration? And what does that mean maybe for folks that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea that while I can put forward policies and a vision and programs, ultimately I have to have my partners on the city council to approve. And we want this to be a collaborative environment. And I have prided myself the last 12 years on council to ensure that we're fostering that relationship. And that will continue as mayor. And so this is a partnership. This is not an I thing. This is a we. Without the city council, we would not be where we are today. And I say that very proud. Council works extremely hard. So coming from the council seat now to the mayor's office, I want to ensure that we're building that co-governance partnership and ensuring that they feel a part of the amazing initiatives that we're going to roll out.
When we opened the door for our readers and listeners to pose some questions to you, a lot of them were revolving around ethics and transparency. Not most of them, but some of them that I'd like to bring up here. To just kind of distill some of that concept down, mayor's not perfect, mistakes will be made. If you make a mistake, maybe when you make a mistake, how will you address that? How will you be transparent with the community about things that happen, taking accountability for mistakes?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think public trust is extremely important. And if there is a mistake made, ensuring that we're honest about it and then adjusting accordingly within my administration, any rules necessary that need to be changed to ensure that it doesn't happen again. But I think the most important thing is just being honest that it happened and making sure that whatever, internal protocols or rules or things that need to be changed to prevent it from happening again.
We've reported on the campaign finance, the fundraising in this race. It's something I'm always pretty interested in.
Yeah, you have the whole map.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Good.
You've raised a lot of money from residents as well as people from outside the city and business owners and contractors, even a lot of the same people that have donated to Mayor Duggan in the past and currently for his gubernatorial race. A lot of people were wondering just what should donors expect out of that relationship with you? Do they receive any additional consideration or influence over the city government?
Not at all. Not at all. Everything that we do will be in a fair, transparent, and equitable way. We're going to follow all protocols and procedures. Everything from a development to a contract goes through public processes of bidding that we will adhere to. I am grateful for the tremendous amount of support that we've received from $5 all the way up until a diverse range of support. But ultimately, what's most important to me are the issues that I've heard on the ground from Detroiters and ensuring that everyone is able to support and uplift those concerns. And so I am a mayor for everyone, right? And so we have to ensure that we have everyone's participation in moving the city forward in a positive direction. But what always remain, my focus is the issues and needs of the city and ensuring that we're increasing the quality of life for Detroiters.
Not to put this on you, but just, there have been issues in the past that elected leaders have had with contractors and their relationships to businesses and so on. Don't need to get in all the examples. People know what I'm talking about. People bring it up to me as kind of a reason that they are distrustful of the city government. So appreciate what you have to say there. I don't know. Anything else you'd like to add about the challenge of trying to turn public perception around on that? Because a lot of folks just feel like, not even just you, that there's just like pay for play still going on in the city government and things like that. Yeah,
I mean, I think just in general, we're going to try to promote as much transparency as possible, especially within the bidding and procurement process. We want to have things online in real time that shows how decisions were made, where you can go and see who was awarded what. So as much as we can implement innovation and technology into incorporating more transparency in city government, we will do. So that's very, very much so important.
Of all things, a GZ concert put a spotlight on ethics disclosures in the city. My understanding is you asked Comerica Bank for tickets that you gave to constituents. The law department said it's okay, no charter violations occurred because Comerica Bank doesn't do business with the city. So just to be clear, nothing illegal was done there. But I'm wondering if you feel like maybe there's a loophole in the ethics disclosure laws there. I mean, it just seems like officials can accept gifts so long as it's not with somebody that's currently doing business. And that's something that people flag to me as, concerning, basically.
I think it definitely was a learning experience for me. And while I'm very confident that Corporation Counsel was indicated correctly that it was not a violation, I've heard from several other people who said that the ethics ordinance in general probably should just be tightened up as far as the language in general, so that we don't have any question as to whether or not what should or should not happen. And so I think that's something that we should all look into. And I'm excited to do that as well. So, yes, I do believe that there's probably room for improvement there.
Credit where it's due. You gave them some additional funding. I've been to
proportional funding.
And that's important because, I've gone to those meetings and they're kind of tucked away in a rec center. It feels like they are struggling to try to uphold their very important job of making sure all of our elected officials are acting ethically. So I don't know, any changes there you might see in the future? Should we continue to boost that up?
Well, I sponsored the ordinance for oversight, all of our oversight agencies, to make sure every year that they have proportional funding, proportional to the overall budget, that they can actually do the job that the charter tells them to do. Very proud of that work. And because of that, I do foresee that they will be able to increase salary, get technology, get the equipment and things that they need to be effective in their roles. So every year they now can come to the table and to justify what they need. Based on a formula, we are supposed to give them a certain amount that is proportional to the overall needs of the office.
I was surprised I got this question a few times. Do you plan to move into the Manoogian mansion?
Do I have a choice? I think you have to. I think you have to, right?
Okay, so that's a yes then, I guess.
No, I'm just joking. We'll see. I haven't even got that far.
After school programs. Sounds like Henry Ford is helping maybe to deliver some of that. You'd like to improve the relationship with DPSCD and probably the Charters of the Education Commission, get some stakeholders together and address this. We've talked before about this. I mean, it's kind of a difficult situation for the mayor because you have limited authority over the schools, but people see there's an important role to play there. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's about partnerships and changing outcomes. I don't need to control the school system to improve the educational outcomes of our youth, and we can just play the role that we need to play. And I think for me, it's about after-school programming and out-of-school time, making sure that kids within a 2-mile radius have access to literacy, tutoring, math, and reading support. Secondly, I think it's important that we are addressing the social determinants. So right now, DPSCD has health hubs in some schools, but they don't have them in all of their schools. So if we can get on-the-ground support in the schools, whether it's mental health or it's access to childcare and housing and providing the wraparound services both for the students and the families, we're helping reduce absenteeism and providing those wraparound services, which I think is important. And then lastly, safe routes to school. We still hear about children who are upset or concerned or scared to even walk to school or go to school because of the blight, vacant homes. And so we want to ensure that there are safe routes and more coordinated transportation to help our students get to school. So those are 3 areas I believe the mayor can be a greater partner in to help change the educational outcomes of our students.
I've learned over the last couple months as people are back to school that a lot of students use DDOT to get to school.
They do,
and home
a lot.
After school.
And again, it goes back to the coordinated transportation system that the mayor can have a greater impact on to ensure that they're able to get to school. So very eager to hone in on that issue a bit more because Dr. Vitti, Superintendent Vitti, mentioned that was one of the major issues was transportation.
We've talked a lot about buses, about DDOT, paying drivers more, getting more buses on the street, increasing frequency, reliability, so they're not showing up late. There's also some other discussions around transit happening right now. The Detroit People Mover is considering expanding.
They're doing their study.
The Q Line's kind of thinking about expanding too. Where do those 2 things maybe rank on your priorities when it comes to transit?
I mean, they're at the top, but I think the most important thing is reliability and frequency of our current routes. No one should have to wait 45 minutes to catch the bus. And so that is the most pressing need for me is how do we improve our current public transit system. There also have been some very productive conversations around shuttles and micro transit that can supplement the current routes that we have now. And so that would be my immediate priorities is reliability, frequency, safety of our current routes, and then moving into more bold ideas like the expansion of the People Mover or also our M1 rail as well.
Part of the perception issue you talk about too is, just people don't
Yeah.
there's a stigma there, right?
Yep.
There's a safety issue that people feel very unsafe riding the bus, and then there's also a perception that it's for like poor people or something. How do we reverse that? There's been some cool like activations of the queue line with like DJs they brought on. Jazz Fest, they activate some of the people mover
Yeah.
stations with like
Nice.
music. I don't know if you can do that on bus, but like
Yeah.
what can we do to
I
kind
mean,
of
I think
reverse that?
it's a culture, a change that we all have to make, and some of it is, marketing it better, putting money towards campaigning. That listen, it's cool, it's okay to ride DDOT. In any other city, it's a cool thing to do, and so changing that stigma and perception, I think, is important. And the more we put money into the system, we pay our drivers, we boost the morale of our DDOT bus drivers, and we market the system in a different way. I think it would help with changing the stigma as well.
We promise to get you out of here on
Okay.
time for your next event.
Thank
Would
you.
you like to make a final pitch to vote? What's the message here in the last weeks?
Well, the message is, Detroit, this is a critical time in Detroit's recovery, and this is not a time for on-the-job training or to experiment with our future. I believe in this moment we need experience and competent leadership that can move us forward in a positive direction. I will always ensure that housing, education, our neighborhoods, public safety, and good-paying jobs are at the forefront of all that I do. It's been an honor to serve, and I hope to serve you as the mayor of the city of Detroit.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it again.
You, Malachi.
Detroit Next is a community-led project from Bridge Detroit and Detroit is Different, which means that we can't do this work without you. We need your support. If you have a question or a comment and want to participate in this process throughout the year, give us a call. We have a phone line set up at 313-284-6407. Leave us a message and we'll play it on the podcast. If you like what we're doing, head to bridgedetroit.com and subscribe to our newsletters. All of that content, again, is free, no paywalls for anybody. We're trying to make this as accessible as possible. Head to our YouTube channel to get full episodes and interviews along with extra content throughout the year. You can also find the audio version of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and DetroitNext.podbean.com. We're going to be doing this all year long, so stay with us. Follow Bridge Detroit and Detroit is Different on your favorite social media platforms and take this ride with us. Thanks.